There is no denying that the last decade has truly been the era of Roman Reigns. And this is best typified by the fact that the tribal chief has been part of 7 main events of the last 9 WrestleManias. And he seemingly is well on his way to an eighth at this year's showcase of the Immortals. Before we make it to WrestleMania 40, let us reflect on the main events that have been and see how many of them have been classics that will be remembered for decades to come for their greatness, and how many have been stinking piles of crap that will forever be a stain on Roman Reigns' resume. On that note, Thanasi, would you care to join me in assessing each of the big dogs' WrestleMania main events?
Well, this is really awesome. This is the first tier list of the channel, so let's get right into it.
Excellent. Before we begin, let us list the tiers that we have. At the top, we have God mode, very appropriate. Right below that is the very commendable Yes, my tribal chief, in honor of the wise man, Paul Heyman. The tier below that is It's not a good match, it's not a bad match, it's the match, which essentially just means it exists.
Meh.
And finally, at the bottom, we have a can of dog food, which is about as pleasant as a steaming dog crap. We'll be doing this chronologically, and so to start off with, we have Roman Reigns versus Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania 31.
If I can start the comment on this one, I think we have to understand some of the parameters here. Can we treat this as a special main event for the fact that it had the most unique finish ever? Or are we measuring this based on Roman Reigns' participation and his performance in the match?
I'm taking the matches collectively in its entirety. So for me, just to add on, I believe WrestleMania 31 fits very well into the Yes, my tribal chief category because it was the first edition of these two together. So it had that element of novelty. But especially if we're talking about novelty, it had, in my opinion, the greatest finish of all time at WrestleMania. So ingenious, so excellent in having Seth Rollins cash in the Money in the Bank briefcase to actually win the WWE Championship. So for me, I think it fits perfectly into just yes, my tribal chief. What do you think?
I think that's right because if it didn't have that finish, I probably would have said put it into the dog food. But I think with that finish, we can promote it up to yes, my tribal chief.
All right, beautiful. The next main event we have is Roman Reigns versus Triple H at WrestleMania 32. And for me, I'm curious to get your thoughts on this because I rewatched every single one of these main events in anticipation of this video. And when I was watching this, the one thing that really stuck to me is it just is boring. Nothing really like noteworthy happens until Roman spears Stephanie McMahon, which got a massive pop, by the way. Even
Oh,
yeah, it's so good. But it was because this was a match where no one actually cared about either of them winning. Like they didn't want Roman to win, but they also didn't really want Triple H to continue winning because the authority was quite hated at this time as well.
look,
And
can I just say this, that this is essentially a copy paste of what had happened 10 years earlier, where it was the coronation of a corporate guy that Vince loved versus Triple H. But at least in 2006, Triple H was much more capable of wrestling, and the bout with Cena actually could produce something, right? Like it wasn't a rain of booze in the same way that this one was like absolutely ridiculous. Like the crowd didn't want it; people were leaving. So my personal instinct is to put this in the bottom in the can of dog food.
I'm more than happy to oblige. And it's a shame,
It
but
is.
I think it does belong there. Next up, we have Roman Reigns versus The Undertaker at WrestleMania 33. And look, this match has a really bad reputation, and quite frankly, I'm not going to do anything to try and improve it. This is arguably Undertaker at his worst, and Roman Reigns as well. Like he really tries to carry it and make something of it, but I don't think he's skilled enough of a wrestler to have pulled it off. That's the harsh truth. And this is the match where this is the first Roman match where he's actually supposed to be the one booed as well. Not that they're presenting him as a heel, but that you can't get people to cheer for you against the Undertaker. Even Cena the year later, when he faced the Undertaker, was getting booed because it's just the that's the aura of the Undertaker. But even JR on commentary can't save this. And he was, I must say, such it was such a blessing to hear his voice again when you have to hear Michael Cole, JBL, JR, all the sorry, not JR, Jerry Lawler. JR is the one positive. But for me, it's really sad. I really do feel like this also belongs in the can of dog food.
I was going to say maybe not good, not bad, but I think I'm fine to put it in can of dog food for now, and we can reevaluate later. But if I can just raise this point that this match should not have been in the main event. You had two already world title matches that were on the card, one of which should not have been a world title match. The real main event on this card should have been Kevin Owens versus Chris Jericho in the main event for the Universal title. That one should have been the one. But I think the fact that it got promoted so high was because it was going to be portrayed as The Undertaker's last match, his retirement match. And then he ended up coming back the next year. So there's a lot of like devaluation and inconsistency here with hindsight inconsistency that probably pushes it quite down as far as its rating.
The next match we've got is Roman Reigns versus Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania 34. And for my money, this completes a hat trick of disappointing, terrible Roman Reigns WrestleMania main events. I think this might actually be the worst because at this point, fans were so against Brock Lesnar as being an absentee champion, and they hated Roman just as much just because he was shoved down our throats. And people just wanted it to be a just give him the title and let's be done with it. And they didn't even give the fans of that. And I just remember everyone hated this. And this was on top of what felt like a disappointing WrestleMania that had a lot of positivity and a lot of hype going into it. But when AJ Styles disappointingly beat Shinsuke for a lot of people, that was disappointing. When Asuka lost to Charlotte Flair,
Oh
and then you
God.
have this close the show, it just felt like you're not doing any progression to your storylines and you're not establishing anyone new in the process. So I think this fittingly is can of dog food as well.
I agree. It's kind of dog food. I remember that I was passionately watching this entire card on the Monday. Like I was in like second year uni, I think, at that point. And on the Monday, I was watching the whole card. And then as soon as this main event came on, I just kind of skipped to the end and was like, what the hell? Okay, so like, what are we doing here? We're expecting him to be coronated, and then we got this crap. So, can of dog food, please.
Well, after that, we have what I feel is actually one of the classics for Roman Reigns, and that is Roman Reigns versus Edge versus Daniel Bryan at WrestleMania 37, Night 2. And for me, just straight off the bat, it 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 just is really fast paced. It's exciting. The dynamic between the three just works. There's heaps of really nice spots, but one that I really want to put a spotlight on is when Edge has Reigns in the crossface, and then Daniel Bryan joins in with the yes lock, and then the two are headbutting each other to try and get the other off the other to actually complete the submission win. And even I'll say this in hindsight, the visual of Roman actually stacking the two, even if we disagree with the visual of him stacking the two to get the win in the end, really did cement him as a boss. And I just think that Edge and Daniel Bryan carry Roman Reigns to a spectacular match.
I agree with everything that you said, especially that last point. The one thing I disagree with is he didn't look like a boss. He looked like a god. And it was around this time that God mode is exactly what was happening to the bloke. This was, I think, the first instance of many where the fact that he won this match was like, damn, okay, they're going full serious with this bloke. Like, it would have been awesome to have Edge kind of like come back, win the Universal title. At that point, it was like well less than 1,000 days of a reign, right? So we thought easily he could have lost it at Mania, and it would have been still, like a big deal and like a great deal of celebration. But as soon as he stacked them, pinned them, you just think, Man, this guy's the real deal now.
Well, then are we in agreement that this goes into God mode?
37 goes into God mode.
Fantastic. Well, the match after that I felt was a lot lower in quality. I'll just say that right off the bat, and that is Roman Reigns versus Brock Lesnar, WrestleMania 38, the third Mania main event between these two. And I'll say this one actually had the most positive crowd reaction in the sense everyone was on board Brock Lesnar as he was trying to win, and they were booing Roman Reigns, and that was what was supposed to happen. So it was correct. But I think watching the match back uh it doesn't help because with hindsight it looks fantastic. But we need to remember in the moment, people were really concerned that Roman Reigns would drop the title after so many days to Brock Lesnar and would feel like it was for nothing, him holding it for more than a year. So him getting the win, it was like it needed to happen. It wasn't like a satisfying conclusion. It was a necessary conclusion. And I think the match itself is really solid, but I also think that in some ways it's the least memorable of the hat tricks because the first one has the heist of the century. The second one is so vilified. I think this one fits perfectly in just it was a serviceable match.
I think, can I just offer this perspective on this one that Roman Reigns at this point, prior to this match, he was still representing with the Universal title. He was showing up on house shows, showing up on TV. So he was the guy that we loved to boo, sometimes to the point that we would cheer him because he was performing this heel gimmick so well. It wasn't until after that that things went to crap. But at least up until here, this did feel like the very next step in the evolution of his character. Where would you like to put it?
I think we should put it in. It's not a bad match. It's not a good match. It's just the match.
I agree. I think I'm happy with that.
All right. Well, that takes us into probably this might actually be the most controversial
Of course
match.
it is.
Roman Reigns versus Cody Rhodes at WrestleMania 39. And I'm gonna say this. Outcome aside, I think this is a classic. And I rewatched it, and you know what? You still watch the match and you still ride the emotional highs. It's still a roller coaster. And I just think that even in defeat, Cody Rhodes came out of this match still looking like he belonged. And I think that there's a testament to that take as well, given that we're a year later and we are actively rooting for Cody to finally finish the story. And we haven't lost faith in him since then. It feels like he's actually gotten more popular. It feels like his stardom has actually gone even higher than what it was, if that was even possible. And I just think that there are really nice moments. The storyline they tell with the interference element is really satisfying when Solo gets ejected, and then soul crushing when he comes back out of nowhere to small and spike him at the end, allowing Roman to get leverage back, spear him for the eventual win. The whole aspect of the Usos being fought off by Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens, brilliant. Uh, Even something as simple as Cody fighting out of the guillotine choke, not reaching the rope, actually fighting out of it is just such excellent storytelling and just really does a lot for him. I think you might disagree with me. We might need to balance it out, but I actually think this does belong in God mode.
Well, look, but before I tell you where I think it should go, what I think holds this back is the fact that it is the booking decision itself, right? Like everything in the story building up to the finish, all the teasers, all the storylines, it just felt that this was the right time for Cody to become champion because Roman had become that which he hated, and that was an absentee champion. As I was saying before, WrestleMania 38, up until leading up until that, he was not an absentee champion. He was still on house shows. He was still around. It was in that year between 2022 WrestleMania and 2023 that he started to basically become Brock Lesnar. So I think that's what holds this back the most because it was at that point where we said, "Oh, come on, like maybe that wasn't the right call." I was livid. I thought they were working us.
How
Go on.
far back does that hold it for you, though? Does it take it down categories or tiers for you?
I think it does take it down one tier.
So you would put it in
I would put
Yes,
it
My
in
Tribal
yes,
Chief.
I would put it in yes, my tribal chief.
All right. Well, in that case, I will acquiesce to your request to bring it down to Yes, My Tribal Chief, and we'll put it at the top of that tier. I think it's fair to say.
Yep, I agree with that.
And I think that as it pertains to the can of dog food category,
Oh,
I think we should put Roman Brock 34 right at the bottom because
yes,
no one was happy. No one was pleased. It was completely terrible.
I agree with that.
I would put Roman Triple H after that purely because it was another match that no one really liked. And at least with Roman Taker, at least during the match, that there was things to look forward to. When Taker hit a punch, you cared. So I think like the fact of like watching it back, at least you feel like, oh, but I am rooting for this person to win. I actually care about them. That
That's
gives
right.
it that little bit of a bump ahead of Roman Triple H. Is that fair enough?
Roman Triple H was basically an instance of you both suck.
Okay,
So
well,
does that
that's
mean do you potentially want to promote WrestleMania 33 up to not good, not bad, but just the match? Or are you happy to have it in the dog food can category?
uh I'm happy to promote it. We'll
Okay, let's
put it at the
promote it to
bottom
the
of
to the
that list.
bottom.
Yeah.
Yep.
So we still have the WrestleMania 38 Roman Brock ahead of it in that category. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I'm happy to do that. Well, then I say that's our final list. People in the comments, let us know what you think of this tier list. Did we stuff it up or is it perfect? Let us know.